haven't killed us yet. I've had a few people tell me that because of the scattered information, I've sort of scattered the information out in these videos because I didn't want YouTube to kick us off before I had a chance to get the message out. So the message is sort of scattered out in several videos. But I'm going to give you the whole thing now, unless I get sidetracked with some stupid question. You say, what makes what you're doing different than anybody else? Believe me, this is different than anything else on YouTube, anything you're going to read at the library, anything you're going to find discussed in any conversation anywhere. This is different. What's unique is that it's the truth. And it's so crazy that the messages that you're going to find within these videos has been buried for so long. The Bible had to give you the same basic information that I'm about to give you in a condensed form. It couldn't give it to you then because the Lord had to honor certain factors, one of them being the devil, the adversary. That's why you hear about the mystery of godliness, the mystery of salvation, essentially. And because it wasn't put in such simple form that the average person could understand it, the world has felt that they're justified in disregarding the truth of the Bible. That in itself is not being talked about. Salvation is there in the Bible, but it is not written so that even a Democrat could understand it. So that's what they're claiming. But if they're sincere and they have a heart that's after God, it's very plain in the Bible. So getting people's attention that have been groomed to this culture that we live in. It's not entirely the fault of the average person that they haven't interpreted truth, or they don't see the Bible more clearly than what it is than they do. Because, as I mentioned in other videos, you've got a world cooperation against the Bible. And I want you to think of this before I go into this any deeper. I want you to think, you've got what's being promoted over TV all around the world is the same thing being promoted. You've got gay people being promoted. You've got lesbians. You've got trans, bi-gender, all this ridiculous idiocy promoted. It's promoted. So, but the truth is not being promoted at all. It never has been. So you'll see that the world order has always had the same pattern. They've promoted everything ridiculous, degrading, and harmful to our society as human beings. But they have buried the good things. So let me give it to you by the numbers before I go into detail. And the details I'm getting ready to go into, you're going to find very interesting. If you've got half a brain, you're going to find them very interesting. The thing that makes this website, this work, unique is that we're the only source of information on YouTube or anywhere you're going to find that literally ties in the federal government and the Catholic Church as one entity, one willpower, one thing, whatever you want to call them. It's the same. The federal government, worldwide federal government, and the worldwide Catholic Church is one and the same. You're not going to hear a politician ever talk about this. You're not going to hear anybody ever come clean with this. They're scared. They're afraid to go against the status quo. Take the average mother that sends her children to school. She doesn't want to she doesn't want to cause problems. That's why you're hearing all these people that's so in love with these biracial things going on, because they don't want to be singled out as racist or whatever. Well, Rome created this. Rome created the movement against the Bible. Rome created all these things. But anyway, we're the only source of media that you're going to find until take us off. They scrap us. We're the only one that literally tells you that the federal government and the Roman Catholic Church is one and the same. Now, when the federal government started back in BC by the Roman Empire, it wasn't called federal back then. They had their own language in their inner circle, and they didn't discuss it. This was highly secret stuff. This is a secretive institution, this Roman Empire, Imperial Rome especially, because what they're doing to the human race is not a good thing. It's ugly. They're demoralizing the world, and they've been demoralizing the world for thousands of years. They are devaluing everything that makes humanity a better species of people. Humanity is better by the principles of the Bible, and they are less of a people by the ways of Rome. So Rome has to devalue. For instance, if you ever run into anybody that don't have as much as you've got, for example, you got a nice car and they got a kind of a bad car. The tendency of the person that has less is to devalue the things that makes his look less. So you have to understand that it is the natural way, tendencies of people to devalue things that make them, in other words, they don't think that they would look bad. In other words, the Democrats would feel they'd look much better if there wasn't Republicans, you know. If they didn't have Republicans, that makes them look non-productive, sloppy thinking, and their level of morality would not look so bad if they didn't have people that had a better class, a better way of dressing, a better income, a better way of doing things. So I spoke to a school teacher one time, this was years ago, and I said, well, how's this busing thing working out? How's, from your point? Because she'd been teaching for many years, and I just wanted to get her input if this really was a good thing, how it was working, how was busing these students working out. She says, and she could tell me this in private, she wasn't in front of a camera, in front of her constituents. So she says, it's horrible. She says, they gave us the line when they started this busing. And who they were, I didn't ask. She said, we were told that this would pick up the intellect of the black people, that the black people would come up, that being around the white children, that this would pick up these black people. They would have better grades, they would be more productive. And this is the story that we were given. This is what the teacher said. She said, but that's not what happened. She said, when the black people started intermingling with the white people, the black people never came up. The white people went down. The grades, their way of life, their culture deteriorated. So I've had a chance to look at this type of thing over, and right off the bat, you've got the small-minded people are going to, because they don't know. They think that the status quo, the line is drawn from what's presented on television, because television has a lot to do with the culture we live in. They think that they don't really realize this. Their culture is literally being shaped by what they watch on TV. And you understand this, that when this world order Jesuit-controlled empire that controls education, that controls all different facets of your world, what you see and hear outside of the Bible, and a man that's trying to preach the truth. They voice their message to the whole world through educational facilities, through their phony churches, their World Council churches. So the average person thinks it must be true. This must be of God. And they've even got the image of God on their dollar bills and everything, as if God is pulling this off. It must be God's will because it's coming through the TV, it's coming through my school, it's coming through my phony church, it's coming through my fake Bible. It's coming from all these different directions, so it must be true. This is what we must do. That's why you have so many people that's scared to death to be realistic about what's taking place with this world we live in, because they think this is God's will. If you'll read in Genesis, you'll find out that God allowed Cain to live, and he didn't want anybody to murder this man. But it was declared as to how wrong he was. He was anti-God. He was anti-Christ from the beginning. But God didn't want anybody to hurt him. God didn't want anybody to touch this man. And through his thinking of reestablishing wealth, Cain, ideologies, his thinking, his efforts, built the city of Babylon. Babylon was a derivative from the philosophies of Cain. Babylon could control what they thought was wealth. So it's a complicated scenario, but somebody needs to tell what's going on in this world. You're given history books by these crooked Jesuits. Your actors are controlled by this Jesuit empire. Your news media, just stop and think a minute. You got 4 years Donald Trump's been in there. And we just saw the State of the Union address last night where Donald Trump, where Nancy Pelosi was sitting behind Donald Trump and acted like a total fool. And you're seeing what's taking place right now. Then the next morning I wake up and I check the media, I check what's going on there. Here come all the clowns. Here come MSNBC, CNN, just boom, right back. People aren't that organized, ladies and gentlemen. People aren't organized enough to sing all the same lines that the whole media has been singing for 4 years or over against this president. Now, do I know for sure that the president is not doing the will of the Jesuit order ultimately in the long run? No, I don't. I don't know that. I don't know. I think the Jesuits are in control of this world. This Babylonian Catholic Empire is in control of this world. The Bible makes that clear. This world is not God's idea of utopia. This is an example of the efforts of the devil. When you look at this world, you're not seeing God's will. Just because they can put in God we trust does not mean that God is the God of the Bible. So back to what we're trying to do here. We've made it very clear that the Bible gives you a clear-cut outline of what God's idea of salvation is, and to save you from this world, to help educate you away from this world. This world is not giving you a fair shake, okay? So I want to start with another thing that guided me into this deeper. I was a freshman in high school, and I was kind of a C minus, D plus student. I didn't like school. I never did. And we took an English class in one semester, and it consisted of Greek mythology, Norse gods, different gods throughout history. It's sort of like an anthropology of gods that the world's produced. And I got an A plus, and the teachers were shocked that I went from a weak C or whatever to an A. So Some teachers are really concerned as to what caused a student to go from such a big leap here, okay? So I'll tell you why. What tweaked my attention in this is that I seen, as part of this class, they were giving all this attention and all this detail to these different gods. Hercules, Thor, all these different gods, Greek gods and so forth. They wanted you to know how to spell their names correctly. They wanted you to know how what they was about and how much power they had and so forth, pagan gods and so forth. And what tweaked my attention was, why are they spending so much time educating us children about these mythological gods, and they have no class, nothing regarding the Bible? This is what got my attention. So this is also what got me deeper into why I'm involved in this. When we think about the effort that this world order has accomplished, you don't have a teacher anymore. You have an administrator that administers what they're told to administer. You don't have a judge in this country anymore. You haven't had a judge in the United States since 1700s. I don't know what the exact year was. But officially, they are called administrators, not judges. You don't have a real president anymore. You've got an administration that they called administration, what are they administering? They're administering the commands, the orders given to them by this Roman Empire. If you watched the State of the Union address last night, you'll notice that on both sides, very plainly, great big symbols, this fasci, this reeded X, and that is a Roman symbol. You can look it up on Rome's Google. It represents the authority given to them by the Roman Empire. So you don't have anybody in this country anymore, and that's why you're seeing such chaos in this world. Because nobody has any authority. You hear about the police department. Sure, they make mistakes and they wrongly arrest people. You've got all these problems in the world because nobody has any authority. And what it's doing, these are human beings, and they have a natural tendency to make sound judgment. But when Rome got into this world, they synthesized all that. They've taken away real wealth. They've changed it all into something that they can control and sculpt and administer to the rest of the world. This is the real problem with this world. Your television, they're all following orders from this. All your sports affiliations, PGA, NBA. Now, you say, how do you know this? How can you? This one thing will prove that I'm telling you the truth in all these videos. If you're out to control the world, let's condense that down to just a household. You cannot control your household if you've got one member in that household that is not playing ball with you. For instance, if you control all the countries of the world but one, there's one country you don't have control of. There's one country that has a different form of TV, that you're not controlling their laws, that you're not controlling their money, that you're not controlling. You see, it never stops. If you're not controlling everything about that country is that little tiniest of countries can expose you to the other countries. And then you've got a problem. There's going to be an uprising against you because they're going to start to identify what you're doing. My message, I say this to you in the face of death. My message to you is the most dangerous thing the Roman Empire has faced, and I'm proud of it. This Bible is the most dangerous, critical thing to the Roman Empire, to the Catholic Federal Roman Empire because it tells truth. It gives you real salvation about a real God, about a real history.
Amen.
Nobody sent me a penny. I don't care. I don't care about your sending me any money. When I close my eyes, if I ever get the chance to close my eyes when I die, I know I did what my heart told me to do.
Absolutely.
They have changed everything about baptism, this Roman Empire, and all these cowards that went along with it, these Protestant fools. They went along with it. I grew up with one of them, Andy Urshan. His dad, Nathaniel Urshan, was the Harvest Time broadcast speaker worldwide. He was the general superintendent of the United Pentecostal Church. And Nathaniel Urshan told me in his kitchen on Orange Street in Indianapolis, when I was 18 years old, that the Bible was flawed, it was misprinted. In other words, he said the same thing that all the rest of the world was saying. They united with the Catholic Empire and declared that we have no Bible. That's all they had to agree to. All they had to agree to get in bed with Rome was that we don't have a Bible. In other words, we don't have a foundation of truth. We don't have a right and wrong. And if you don't have a Bible, if you don't have a fundamental foundation of history that's contrary to what everybody's teaching in school, you have nothing. I wanted to get into this Dracula thing real quick before I go on. This Dracula character, which you know was a fictitious character, was another creation of this Roman Empire, this Jesuit Catholic Federal Empire, to advertise Rome as a hero. The cross that wards him off. According to this Bible, the cross is a cursed object. The cross isn't a good thing. Rome's being the mother of abominations, Dracula is now being advertised in some YouTube videos as being loved by the public. They're fascinated with Dracula, who impaled people, who murdered people, who drank their blood. And they're more interested in Dracula than they was ever interested in actual truth or the fundamental basics of what the apostles taught. So here's my point to this Dracula thing. Many people don't even understand what the word occult means. Secret, duh. Anything that is a secret, something's dirty. If they can't tell you why there's a skull and bones and what they're involved in and what is the actual benefit to our society as human beings that the skull and bones donates to it, there's something wrong. The skull and bones supposedly has him getting this thing George Bush belonged to, Kerry. Of course, Clinton was Georgetown. That's another Jesuit mess. But they had him lay in these caskets and masturbate so they could film these people in skull and bones and blackmail them if they ever didn't do what they were told to do. This is the purpose for the occult. The practical purpose as to why Rome has held to the occult for thousands of years. It's for blackmail. The French Lick Casino in southern Indiana, they have, if you ever go there, you'll see that it's all laid out like some kind of a witch's coven in the backyard. There was an 8-foot statue of the devil himself. They had a lot of prominent politicians go to this hotel, the French Lick Hotel Resort with the sulfur water and all that. But anyway, why did they do this? Why did they promote these, induce these politicians to go to these witches things that they were having in the backyard of this motel? Because these people were filmed in this very precarious situation, and they've got them where they actually witnessed supposed murders of sacrifices on these altars that was still there last time I checked at this hotel. And that they could blackmail these people and keep them in line and say, well, we've got you on film that you attended a murder. this is why they use the occult. And it's not who kept it alive. Who has kept the occult alive? Occultism. Who's kept Dracula alive? Who's kept the movies alive that gave the devil power to move furniture, just to sling people across the room? Bible never claimed that. God never gave this puny adversary that kind of power to torment his people. No. He only has the power to deceive. If he had the power to move matter, to sling people around, he wouldn't need to deceive. If he had the power to raise people from the dead, which Rome gave him that power. Notice the scripture, it says, he will do signs and wonders so convincing that it would deceive the very elect if possible. It's not possible. The devil was never given the power to raise the dead, to create limbs and form life. If you look at Evil Dead, they can come out of the ground, they can beat them to death with a board, and they're still moving around. The devil never had that power. Who gave them that power? The Roman Empire, through their movies, by interjecting into the imaginations of men that the devil has this kind of power. This institution is not a good institution. They're devaluing, demoralizing, detruthing the human race, and they're making you think the devil's got power. Now, what makes the Pope so good then? He represents an institution. Here, back to what I was saying. The purpose of the Roman Catholic Church is no more than a cover, a costume, to hide Rome's real reason, Rome's real purpose, federalization. One of the videos on the front page of the website literally points out that Fulton Sheen, the main spokesman of the Roman Catholic Empire, is telling you that when Rome conquered Palestine in 63 BC, this is what happened. It wasn't even Palestine back then. That area of the earth that was conquered by the Roman Empire. They couldn't coin their own money anymore. They couldn't put anybody to death. Rome, when they took over a country, they took away that country's right to make its own money. This is federalism. This is what's happening today in the United States. The federal government, we can't borrow money. This country cannot get money from anybody but one source, the Federal Roman Catholic Empire. That's slavery. When you don't have any options but Rome, and everybody handles that money that comes from this, forced to come from Rome. But they had to hide that. That's why they've got all these diversions. If Rome ever really did listen to one of these videos, and they're not very punctual, they'd scrap me. I wouldn't last a minute. So this is the practical purpose of the Catholic Church, not because God allowed it, not because God blessed their doctrine, not because God blessed their murdering millions of people and being involved in every world war. It's because the devil was allowed to run rampant with his Babylonian deception. And God would still prove that he's God Almighty and he overcome it. God would have the glory. God would be proven the victor in the end. This is what proves that he's God. His truth is still in this earth. And everything about this culture has been done nothing but trying to destroy it. The fact that it's still here today, the fact that I can give you this video is a monumental miracle. So, it was Rome that gave the devil all this supposed power. It is Rome, the Roman Catholic Federal Empire, is the one that makes you think the devil has more power than he is. That isn't a godly institution. In God we trust, but there's no identification to this God. So this puts more emphasis on why it is important that this God that you say you believe in is identified. What God? Because Rome totally twisted the truth and has given you a misrepresentation and has your mind so messed up you don't know whether you're coming or going. I don't know what else to tell you. If this don't help you, nothing will.